Good evening, I'm Karima Brown. It's Sunday night and it's time for The Fix. First up, the emotive question of land. Our panel of experts dissect if changing Section 25 of the Constitution will really speed up land reform, or if it's just another populist ploy to pull in votes. Agri-SA, the ANC and academics slug it out. It's official. South Africa is in a recession. But the president and his finance minister says there's no reason to panic.
All is not lost. And I don't believe that a full recession will take hold in South Africa.
An economic stimulus package will get us out of our financial quagmire. But can and should we trust our politicians? Our expert panel of eminent economists debate it out. The Fix starts now. This is The Fix, where every Sunday night, without fear or favor, we question the big role players. We look ahead and tell you what matters, how it affects you, and why you should care. And with me, as usual, is my sparring partner, Sunday Times columnist, Peter Bruce. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Karima. It's nice to be back. It's a bit cold in Johannesburg tonight. Unfortunately, I seem to have missed the sort of big event of the weekend, a tennis match in New York, which went all very wrong.
A massive tennis match in New York, which of course played out to great dramatic effect. We had Serena Williams, the greatest tennis player of all time, chasing a record, Margaret Court's record to be precise. And we had a brand new youngster, a 20-year-old, half Haitian, half Japanese woman, Naomi Osaka, playing. But the match was, of course, marred by several really bad calls against Serena. Let's have a listen to Serena having a go at the umpire.
No, I don't know the risk, because if I say a simple thing, a thief because he stole a point from me, that does not make, there are men out here that do likewise, but because I'm a woman, you're going to take this away from me?
And that's, of course, Serena, Peter, making that old same demand that men get treated differently. And it seems as if international tennis is simply caught up in patriarchy and sexism.
Well, I mean, I remember watching, I look at my feet when I see stuff like that. I can't watch embarrassing television. I remember John McEnroe many years ago at Wimbledon doing the same thing to a referee.
Yes.
And he didn't get into trouble for it.
No,
he didn't
not
get
at
a point docked or anything like that. The person I feel sorry for is Osaka, who won the match, beating her sort of childhood hero, which is a huge moment for her.
Absolutely.
And it gets robbed. She gets robbed of that.
Yes, and of course, I mean, she's got an interesting history herself. She's half Japanese. You've lived in Japan for a long time. You know how the Japanese treat those whom they think are not huge, holy Japanese. And of course, her mom making the point, of course, that she's playing for Japan. Let's take a listen at how this 20-year-old US champion composed herself and then breaks down at the press conference after the match.
I know that she really wants to have the 24th Grand Slam, right? Everyone knows this. It's on the commercials. It's everywhere. And, when I step onto the court, I feel like a different person, right? I'm not a Serena fan. I'm just a tennis player playing another tennis player. But then when I hugged her at the net, sorry. Anyways, when I hugged her at the net, I felt like a little kid again, so sorry. No, I'm okay.
You have to really feel
for you've got to feel for both of them. I really think that was a sad and joyful moment for her, because we've got somebody new to entertain us on a tennis court as well, and good luck to her in the future. Some really cool stories around that. Bob Woodward, who helped bring down Richard Nixon in the 60s, early 70s, in the Watergate saga, has written a book called Fear, which is about, so you've gone inside the Trump White House. And he basically describes a country being run by a simpleton, not somebody with any real strategy. He speaks to everybody. And he quotes Trump's former personal attorney, John Dowd, who ran they did a test interview, assuming that Trump was now going to speak to Robert Mueller, the special counsel who's investigating whether the Russians helped get him elected. And Trump can't see why he can't talk to Mueller, just sort this out. And the attorney, his personal attorney, says, don't testify. It's either that or an orange jumpsuit. I mean, Trump just lies all the time.
Peter, I must tell you, I'm at a complete loss when it comes to the Trump administration.
No,
I cannot imagine that such a man can lead the United States.
His chief of staff tells Woodward of Trump, he's an idiot. It's pointless to try and convince him of anything. He's gone off the rails. Jim Mattis, who is currently the defense secretary, tells people that the president acted like and had the understanding of a fifth grader. It's quite extraordinary. And, you know, it's bad government is just everywhere. I got to tell you. I mean, South Africans like to think that they live in the worst country in the world. They absolutely don't. And
I hear you've got some really bad news from Brexit.
Well, I mean, the front page of the Sunday Times in London today carries a story saying police plan for riots and crime wave if there's no Brexit deal. And there isn't a Brexit deal anywhere near on the horizon. There may very well be, by the time Britain has to leave the EU next March, at the end of next March, there may be no deal. In other words, hard borders will be imposed, hard borders between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, potentially the return of civil war, hard borders from France into Ireland, which means that you'd have to find about 3,000 or 4,000 hectares just to park trucks while they wait to be customs cleared with goods.
Unbelievable.
This report warns, Sunday Times warning, this is a report from the National Police Coordination Centre, warns that it may be necessary to call on military assistance in the weeks before and after Brexit because they're expecting a crime wave. The document says basically that they're going to suffer food shortages, drug shortages. They don't talk about industry here, but if you're on a just-in-time circuit in, say, the car industry, you've got a part being made in Germany, being fitted in a car in England. It's going to break all of that stuff. So it really is very, very serious. The predominant concern, say the police, is food and goods shortages, including NHS supplies, which will result, what it says in quote, civil disorder leading to widespread unrest. Unbelievable. And you know, it's all very well to sort of think that the grass is greener on the other side, but it really isn't.
And of course, what makes that report so important is, of course, that it's a briefing document for the Prime Minister.
No, absolutely. This is a police document. This is not. They're calling for military help. They're that frightened about what's going to happen.
Absolutely incredible. And well, from one bad situation to a next, we've got the Sunday papers here, essentially talking about saying exposed Zuma plot to oust Cyril. Now, of course, I mean, you and I have been chatting for weeks about this matter. It was covered by the City Press. It was real. Yes. And what is really interesting, of course, is the fact that there's been 2 denials so far, both by the Women's League and by the Youth League chair of KwaZulu-Natal, that they didn't attend this meeting.
He said he was walking past the hotel and he happened to see the Secretary General.
But let's take a look at the Chief Whip, Jackson Mthembu's tweets to the story, and it gives you an idea of how important it actually is. And I mean, essentially he's saying the Sunday Times story today alleging a plot to oust President Cyril Ramaphosa deserves urgent attention at the NEC. The alleged clandestine plot, which is regrettably including the Secretary General, Comrade Ates Magashule, undermines the unity and renewal efforts of the ANC. Peter, it was never going to work well with Asa Secretary General, was it?
No, it's not. And you know, people were saying after he was elected that he wouldn't finish a full term. and there was another guy who tweeted today on this next to Jackson that he had been warning about these meetings for a couple of months, and he posted tweets where he said this. So he may well have been right. I don't know who he is. I can't remember his name. But he was saying these meetings have been. This is not the first meeting that they've had at that hotel.
You know, the WhatsApp message that actually, or rather the tweet that actually fascinates me that Jackson Mthembu actually tweeted about was the one that he says more seriously disturbing is the alleged clandestine plot, is the undermining of the state's efforts to fight and reverse impacts of state capture. Those involved in the plot also want to undermine the ANC's 2019 election campaign so as to produce a disastrous result.
So this is the sort of narrative at the moment, that basically you weaken the ANC's ability to run a successful election campaign, and then when it doesn't have the majorities, you want it just over 50%, but not too far over 50%, because you don't have to share with anybody else. And that's when the old Zumarites come back in and sweep Cyril Ramaphosa out in a special national conference. Is that the deal? Is that the...
I think that is the original plan, but I think the speed with which Cyril Ramaphosa has introduced some measures, for example, giving Pravin Gordhan the right to go and clean up, appearing with him on a platform in Chatsworth, effectively saying, you know, this is the person I am sending, is setting the scene. But it's going to be a fierce battle, Peter. And of course, two of the big issues around which this organization is also divided is our topics for conversation this evening. One, of course, about land and the state of our economy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can see the fight back that Pravin Gordhan is facing inside state-owned entities, particularly at Transnet. They've tried to suspend two senior executives. I believe one is interdicting them. Siyabonga Gama is gone home. He's not feeling well.
On sick leave.
But may well be suspended as well this week. He may try to interdict. There's a very, people are saying, I won't go, I won't go. They're calling into question the many, many reports that now exist on what they did. What this government has to be careful of, though, Karima, is that they don't do to these guys what was done to the other people by the Zuptas.
Absolutely. And
don't investigate, no one-sided investigation.
Yeah, we can't have selective investigations. Well, after the break, we look at the emotive issue of land with my panel of experts.